Okay. Fire away. Hard-hitting questions. Let's come up with them. I'm ready. I've rehearsed my answers.
Coach, with the running game, what are some things you guys have been working on or even worked on today in practice to sort of try to figure that out, I guess?
Well, I think let's look at it, based upon last week's game. One, A&M is pretty good against the run. Two, a lot of the run game, for us is based upon individual matchups, winning individual matchups. We lost some individual matchups, not collectively, but some individual matchups that made the run game less effective. And then, quite frankly, just making good decisions based upon when we should, throw the ball out and when we should run the football based upon numbers. So similarly to what we've talked about before, those are decisions that are made, post-snap. So we made some poor decisions post-snap. We certainly didn't execute at times. And it's not just the five guys. It's a collection of everything. So when our run game has not gone well, we've lost some individual matchups up front. The quarterback is instrumental in reading, whether he has a loaded box or not. And then, clearly, when there's an extra hat, making somebody miss. And we just collectively didn't execute at a high level in the running game from that standpoint.
Coach, kind of how have you guys broken down practice in terms of how much the week is devoted to looking back at last game and how much is looking forward? And also just how has the team responded to just what you guys have been pointing out about what went wrong last game, what they need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we did well is the guys prepared to go into a very difficult environment and, perform at a high level. They started off in the first half, had a double-digit lead, and with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, still held a lead and had a chance to add on to that lead. 52 of the first 73 plays, our guys played exceedingly well. It was the last 23 plays. So this is much more about how do you finish a game. Now, we've been on the other end of two of them where we didn't play well for the first 52 plays, but played great in the last 23. Now the shoe's on the other foot, right? Where, we don't play well for the last 22, 23 plays. And our guys have to learn from that. So what we did well is we prepared well. We came out emotionally, physically, did the right things, but we didn't finish. You got to finish in this league. We saw that in the South Carolina game. We saw that in the Ole Miss game. We finished. Maybe we didn't start as well as we wanted, but we finished. This game we didn't finish. So we talked about that, about finishing. And then we went to work on some of the things that we believe we need to get better at on both sides of the ball. And so it's a little bit of, here are the things you did really well, here are the things we got to work on, and then, let's get some of the young guys some work. We had a little bit of a scrimmage with the young guys. So that was the focus today.
Brian over here. Greg Penn said after the game Saturday night that the defense wasn't prepared for Marcel Reed to come into the game. So could you speak on if you guys did prepare for him to play any snaps before the game on Saturday and I guess sort of, just kind of piggyback off of what he said?
Yeah, I don't know that Greg was referring to the fact that we weren't prepared. You you don't run a defense expecting the number 2 quarterback to come in. We've prepared for that kind of offense. Everybody runs what they ran. They ran zone read and they ran bash. And we saw that last week. You know, we saw it. We've seen it every week. And so, you know, again, those are things that we just didn't execute as well. And we prepared for Connor to play. And so a lot of the reps were focused on the offense that Connor is part of. But throughout camp, throughout spring ball, throughout the course of the season, we have a defense and a structure that stops quarterback runs, that stops read option, because you have to. And so the fact of the matter is we just didn't execute it as well. And that's the fact of the matter.
Hey, Coach, we haven't really seen Garrett, struggle like he did in that second half. He certainly had a lot of high points this season, too. What's the process of kind of building his confidence back up going into the bye week here and then obviously the Bama game next week?
Yeah, I mean, it's the process of a first-time starter at quarterback. You weren't here, but some of these ladies and gentlemen that are here in Jaden Daniels' first year, we threw for 86 yards against Auburn. We barely got out of Arkansas after a 13-10 win. We got our butts kicked against Tennessee. And Jaden Daniels, they're ready to, I think, put up a statue in Washington right now. There were many, many people calling for his job here in Baton Rouge earlier in his tenure. It's the life of the quarterback at any level, whether it's college or the NFL. And Garrett knows that. He comes from a family. His dad's a quarterback coach. So he's built for this, right? And he is he's not a guy that is going to shy away from it. As you know, he was in, I think, the press room, and he took full accountability and responsibility for what happened, which, as you know, the quarterback gets too much of the credit and gets too much of the blame, right? But having said that, he is up for the challenge of getting better. And he's out there, and we're working with him to get him to the level that he needs to be. And he's excited about doing it. So I'm not really worried about loss of confidence with him because he knows this. He knows what this looks like. And he knows others that have been here that are having incredible success in the NFL right now have gone through a similar path of development. And he's going through that too.
Brian, obviously the kicking game was great, has been great most of the year, and then Saturday was a problem. You said it's not going to happen again. Are you going to make some the kicking game and problems with the field goals?
Yeah, the battery. The battery is the snapper, the holder, and the kicker. We've got to get them together as one. It's not one without the other. All three of those guys have to work in unison, and they were out of sync. As well as they were working the week before, I don't know what happened, but they were out of sync. And, we had the untimely snap. We didn't have a great hold. But as you know, it's the kicker who's going to get the blame because he's the one ultimately that is out there getting the credit or the blame. But it's the battery that was highly ineffective for us against Texas A&M. And that battery, we got some work today on it, which, you very rarely put that group out there on an off week. But we had to get them out there today and spend a lot of time with them. Yeah.
In the NFL, they change kickers and things like that all the time.
Yeah, they fire them.
Yeah, you don't have that. You don't have that luxury. But I mean, are you?
No.
I guess where I was going, are you considering maybe trying someone else at a snapper or a holder or something like that?
Yeah, in the NFL, what they do is, as I said, and I'm not making light of this because you're losing a job, but there's a bank of long snapping professionals, and they can just dip into that bank and pay them. We don't have that. Like, you can't, like, just go pick somebody out of the dorms and say, come on in. We just don't have those guys. So what you really have to do is work harder with those guys and, trust that they're going to make progress and work as a unit. They're all capable. It was a bad night, and that night can, as I said, you can't have a night like that. For me to have a night like that when they were so good all year is really troubling, but at the same time, we're going to get it fixed.
I know it was a bad night. Did Dellinger going down exacerbate the situation in the run game to a point that you could see that on tape?
Well, I mean, look, he's the starter, but one guy, going down did not affect the running game to the level that it did. Certainly, as I mentioned earlier, there are bits and pieces to it. And, we did not win some individual matchups. We made some mistakes uncharacteristically from some other guys that are on the offensive line. And quite frankly, we made some choices to run into boxes that were not conducive, and we should have been doing some other things. So it was a little bit of all those things. And even with that, and we don't want to live that way, it's still going to come down to the inability to take care of the football and the inability to slow them down in the second half, with the quarterback, the new quarterback coming in. That really was the difference.
On a totally different note, are some teams just not built to be screen teams? Does it really dictate personnel as far as being able to have an effective screen game?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've had some teams that have had incredible opportunities to throw screens at any time, any place. Really prolific. I feel like they should take my screen card away from me right now. And I have such pride in throwing screens, and I really do. I'm not saying that. I mean it. And it's very difficult. We're not built for it right now, and we want to be.
Just kind of along those lines with Dellinger, is he feeling okay? Or I know he went down.
He had a high ankle sprain, so we're hoping that this week becomes a recovery week for him.
Okay, and then just with Mason Taylor, it seems like every time he's making a catch, it's a big catch. But I'm sure you guys would love him to get the ball more than 3 times in a game. Has there been any kind of conversations about how you can continue to get him the ball and kind of moving the offense forward?
Maybe I didn't look at the numbers, but I think is that all he's averaging, 3 a game? I think he's targeted quite a bit, and I know he's an integral part of what we do, and I know Garrett looks toward getting him the football. I didn't really do a deep dive on him not getting the football over the last few weeks as much as he's such an integral part of what we do.
Yeah, so looking ahead a little bit, we saw Alabama this past weekend kind of start to look like their old selves again. So kind of what's been the game plan in your mind going into
What's that old self look like? Was Nick Saban back? Nick's
No.
on the sideline?
Just
He's
winning.
everywhere. Game day. He's at game day, too. Did you know that? Oh, my God. I'm not sure what the old Alabama, they're going to have they've got great personnel. They're well coached. we certainly know that it's going to be a great challenge, but that's the SEC. Every week it's going to be the same. I don't know that there is a sense that our team can't, if they're playing to their best when their best is needed, that they can't compete and play with anybody. We certainly have to play 4 quarters, and I know that they're anxious and excited about the opportunity to play at Tiger Stadium. And look, I think I said this in the presser after. You have a 24-hour rule, but it's easier to have that when after a win. The 24-hour after a loss sticks around a lot longer, and these guys are going to want to play, and they can't wait to play Alabama.
Just sort of add on to sort of a follow-up to Cobble's question about the screens. What makes a screen team and what doesn't make a screen team? I'm genuinely curious about
That's a good question. So timing is important, right? There's the old adage, don't speed up a weak hitter's bat, right? Don't throw off-speed pitches if he can't hit a fastball. Well, if you don't have a really good pass rush, don't throw screens, right? They're really meant for teams that are blitzing and bringing pressure and have a great pass rush. So you got to match that with the down and distance, right? So, if you're getting a lot of drop eight, if you're getting a lot of defenses that are not rushing, screens aren't very good against them. So you got to hit the calls. So screen games are really about the art and science of the call when it comes to screens. And then you got to get linemen out in space. So when they changed the rules where you can't cut in space, the screen game became a lot more difficult because those big guys are like elephants on roller skates, and they're out there and they're like, and they can't cut, right? And they're not as quite mobile as some others. And so the screen game becomes one where you want a great pass rush, you want to hit it quickly, and you want to be able to get upfield. And that means you got to get linemen out quickly and be able to strike and get north and south. And that's a proposition that requires a lot of athleticism and a lot of hitting the call at the right time in the right place. Does that do a good job at it?
You've run this play a few times where you just throw the ball out the gate to the flat, and on the flat, and then you just have the receiver sort of act. Is that sort of like a version of your?
Yeah, that's much more of a perimeter throw where we're just blocking. That doesn't include any of the linemen. That's really a flare to the back. We wouldn't even call it a screen, and the linemen have to be involved and moving for us to really, for that to hit a screen for us. We haven't thrown a lot of screens. Good? I'd be happy to do a clinic on any of the screens. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's just getting the ball, trying to get numbers out on the perimeter, where you feel like, based upon the formation, that you can get the ball out quickly. The one that we hit the big play with Caden Durham was really, it wasn't a screen. It was really an extension of an outside run play, getting the ball out and just blocking the perimeter.